and welcome to the Wednesday Night War Preview Podcast. I'm Adam Wilbourn from WhatCulture, joined by Michael Sidgwick and Adam Nicholas from WhatCulture to look ahead to tonight's AEW versus NXT showdown. But before we get into it, if you're a fan of this sort of thing, make sure you subscribe to WhatCulture Wrestling on either iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from for daily wrestling podcasts, where we not only review Raw and SmackDown, but also the Wednesday Night War between AEW and NXT, pay-per-views. You have interviews, roundtable discussions, and a roundup of the week, complete with a bloody good quiz, of course, on WrestleCulture. But, gents, it is week 3 of the Wednesday Night War. And before we get into what is a stacked card specifically for AEW, is the Wednesday Night War sort of already over?
I guess. I honestly guess it is. I predict another bloodbath tonight. I mean, look at the stakes involved in the AEW card. You've got 2 major championship matches. Riho's really over. Chris Jericho arguably is the biggest star in all of wrestling right now. The tag team tournament matches have stakes, and the one match that doesn't have like a purpose realistically behind it is going to be the best match of the night. This card is ridiculously stacked. It's going to be a very vocal, heated, receptive Philadelphia crowd. Of course. They could potentially do more stuff with the Inner Circle. There's lots of intrigue on the back of the angles that they pulled off last week. It's just, it's a must-watch show, and NXT, in contrast, feels inessential.
Just another show is what NXT feels like, doesn't it, unfortunately, as much as it pains me to say it. But I think Sidge is right there. The Philadelphia crowd is the one thing that's where you're going to really see the benefit of not being stuck in the same place. They're going to go mad tonight. They're going to go absolutely crazy. And they've put a card on that is like tailor-made for that crowd to go absolutely nuts.
Now, we all know what WWE thought was going to happen with this Wednesday Night War. They were arrogant enough to think they were going to blow AEW out of the water with their, third show, effectively. But for NXT fans like yourself, Adam Nicholas, was this less about winning the war and more about just being given the platform of live TV every week?
I think it stinks of WWE, doesn't it? And as you've said there, they wanted to dive in purely for the sake of making this sort of the opening statement after the first week, where they're like, "Oh yeah, well done, it's really good." It's like, you don't need to do that. Why would anybody need to do that? That's not. Don't try and suddenly, after years of literally your boss Vince McMahon on telly going, crush the opposition with WCW, being like, oh no, this one doesn't matter. This is all right. I know it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. Just accept it. Like, that's fine. The ratings thing, I really think, was always going to be an AEW thing, and it's massively important to see them continue that, I think, because it's a great metric for them to say we're brand new and look at how many people we're bringing in. Ultimately, though, you're probably just happy there's a lot of fans are watching wrestling across the two, but it's not even close, is it? It's like miles apart, and that's what you should be expecting from this. I don't know what WWE thought they were going to get. People barely look at our content. People barely engage on a weekly basis with NXT content. It's just like, it's not as hot topic, is it? And we have tried absolutely everything, and it's just, for whatever reason,
it's numbers.
It's numbers.
And I totally understand the decision. Like, it's heartbreaking.
When it's around a takeover, it's a lot of buzz and excitement. But
but that's a very isolated incident, isn't it? You could arguably not watch any of the week's shows, and the promo packages and stuff are so good with the takeovers. You don't need to, do you? You just put it on, and there it is, and you can enjoy it for what it is. But even that took a hit. The last takeover wasn't anywhere near what it should be at a time when really you'd think you want to be pushing on and putting on the best shows. It
just strikes me that this week in particular, yes, we have Tommaso Ciampa's in-ring return and the rubber match between Keith Lee and Dominic Dijakovic. I've never know how to pronounce it.
Just call the guy Dijak. How hard is it?
Yeah. He was already caught at one point. I'll just chuck an Ovic on the end and then make it so you don't say itch, and it's really complicated. And Mauro can tell you to scratch that itch, everybody. Thanks, Mauro. Cheers, buddy.
It strikes me that this week, more than any other in particular, is the week that WWE are sort of ceding the centre ground to AEW. Like, they're not putting up a fight when they know they're up against 2 title matches, tag team tournament matches, as you mentioned.
Yeah, and it's a short-term surrender, but ultimately this could be good long-term. The whole story of the war so far, the whole narrative is that NXT has done what I've described previously as the Clockwork Orange approach. Can you take your glasses off for me, Adam Wilbourn, just in case anybody isn't familiar with the motion picture of Clockwork Orange, in terms of Mauro Ranallo's booming voice, the Slipknot theme tune, getting Adam Cole and Matt Riddle on the first week of AEW to go out there and have an absolutely awesome 200 miles per hour match. They've been doing this to the audience.
Oh, and I'll get the other one. There you are.
So that's what they've been doing. And it feels like for
Great
the first
visual, that.
time this week they've realised that ain't working. We are absolutely blowing our loads here for like potential future takeover matches and cards. Let's just rein it in. And for once they've said, let's just concentrate on our own brand. And I think that's a very positive sign, unless they panic yet again and think, well, no, we need to do something else next week. Do this kind of stuff. It will pay dividends in the end.
Because they've got, NXT North American Championship matches to come. The exciting continuation of, what happened, the Undisputed Era, the exciting continuation of what happens with Imperium. They've got lots of stuff in the bank, and they don't, like you say, I think it's about now catering to the fans that have stuck around and the fans that, just because you don't get huge amount of viewers on the night, like if it's gun to my head right now, someone said, from now on, you have to decide, and you cannot change what you're going to watch live and what you're going to watch later on. It's always going to be AEW, because that's what it's going to be. You look at Twitter trends, even if you want to boil it down to stuff like that, that's the thing that everyone is talking about immediately afterwards, no matter what happens on NXT.
Well, I think the perfect example of this conversation is that because I've watched NXT for so long, I probably would still watch it because it's a brand that I like and I've followed it. So I'll probably stick with that and choose it, but purely because of habit and the things that I enjoy. I've spent a lot of time, so all the little guys who are kind of on their way up, you've spent time with them on a weekly basis. If I'd just come in brand new watching those first two shows, the first one for NXT, I would have said, well, as you said, they put on a mini takeover. So you're thinking, this is incredible, this is amazing. But that's not sustainable for them, especially if they're going to be putting those takeovers on. And because they don't put them on as frequently, they're going to burn through so many more matches before they get to that takeover, as Sidgwick pointed out.
The difference is AEW's lit the fuse and NXT's brought the boom. That's the difference here.
Boom. Started it off. Well, I think if you've, again, because both have been, in my opinion, both have been class, so it's not really been a case of having to pick or choose, it's been a case of being able to enjoy them both. But with AEW, they've hit that point where maybe the first show you would have said, wrestling-wise, maybe one show was better than the other, but then, obviously, the ratings was a complete reflection of where AEW was at. But then, that second one, you've got someone like Jericho coming up and turn up with that promo where, if you're not paying attention already, you're paying attention now.
Yes.
You really are, because they've set up so many things, the Inner Circle stuff at the end of the previous episodes, all come together nicely, and they've led in for a bunch of storylines that you're interested in. Arguably, the reason when I'm watching NXT, I think, oh, well, they've done sort of similar, is because I've watched it for that long that I'm looking at the little threads. But even then, look at I'm sure we'll get another two cards, but it's not even close. And I love the fact that Tommaso Ciampa's coming back, but the match he's having is it's just to ease him back into it, and it's not really going to top any of these four matches, and that's the fact of it, isn't it?
Let's dive in then and talk about AEW to start with. Two title matches. The headliner, of course, being Chris Jericho versus Darby Allin in a Philly street fight for the AEW World Championship, for a match that we kind of know what's going to happen in. There's arguably no way in hell Chris Jericho drops that AEW World title. Still buzzing about this.
Yes, absolutely. And the reason is it's going to be like a showcase for Darby Allin. It's, in effect, the perfect TV match. You've got a result that's pretty much predictable, but it's going to put a spotlight on an up-and-coming emerging performer who's really connected with the AEW crowd so far. He's got immense star potential. And yeah, I can't wait for this. It's not necessarily the result. It's the way in which Jericho puts him over in defeat. I'd love to see Darby Allin, because he's just like a whippet. He's lightning quick. Yeah. Just bring an immediate assault to Chris Jericho, completely overwhelm him in the early going, get like a flash near fall, and then Jericho grinds the pace down using his veteran instincts, and then that can be like the pace of the match where he just pummels him with his own skateboard. And then I think it was Michael Hamflett who pitched the comeback, which will inevitably happen, materializing him as him running up the ramp, coming back down on the skateboard, Judas effect, right in the face, dragging him back into the ring.
So the question is, because obviously we've seen a Darby Allin match on a pay-per-view that was madness, the triple threat match, obviously, where they just did absolutely everything. What are we going to see in terms of where can they go? What's the level? Obviously, I know it's the TV 14, but obviously Tony Khan was very quick to say in the post pay-per-view scrums, he was like, it's not going to be that high for, pay-per-views are going to be different to TV. Do you reckon we're going to see the kind of level of violence, if you like, that we saw on these other stores? Are we going to see a more refined version of that?
I can see a coffin drop through all sorts of things on this. But I would imagine there's going to be less sort of bloodying someone up with a chair or whatever.
I'm curious to see, because obviously you want them to be able to push it as far as they can.
Yes.
But I wonder where that line is. That's going to be the interesting thing.
I think the line, if we look at the evidence so far, you've seen a very gimmicked but still effective looking glass coffee table spot break, which is fantastic. And if you look at what they do on Raw, there's chair shots, there's table bumps. They can do all of like the plunder stuff to a degree. And AEW's got a higher TV ratings, TV 14. So I think somewhere between the most excessive episodes of Raw and the pay-per-views. So I don't think you'll see blood. I don't think you'll see thumbtacks. I think you'll see some incredibly painful looking table spots.
Darby Allin seems to do take bumps, you mentioned there, through stuff like there isn't, it's not spectacular. It just looks incredibly painful. So I could see him tonight taking a coffin drop on like the edge of a skateboard, which isn't going to look visually amazing. His skateboard's going to be that far off the floor. But you just know.
It's the reality of it, because if you did that, that would absolutely knack. And there's no way he can fake that.
And I can also see, as much as we are all looking to Darby Allin to take all the licks here, Jericho has got that edge to him as well, and he's proud of that as well. I can easily see the return of the skateboard with the thumbtacks on.
What's gone a bit unnoticed is how much Chris Jericho is beating the piss out of his opponents in these AEW matches, and how much they're beating the piss out of him. Like the Hangman in Omega matches were like grimacing, like really, really like just the chops alone were nasty as hell. That is exactly the word. So yeah, I think you're going to see something nasty, dramatic, and it's going to be so well worked that you will get lost in the moment. Like you will think, oh, Allen's got this, because Jericho's a master.
I think I'd like to see Jericho's version of the match that Cody had with Darby Allin. Like, obviously, the first time I'd seen Darby Allin, I think probably in that match against Cody, and he comes out looking like a star. Yes, there was a draw. I don't think there'll be a draw this time round, but it'd be fascinating to see just how high his stock can be. Because this is important, I guess, isn't it? Because if he gets in defeat, they were saying about the wins and losses thing, something to do with the quality of the match, I guess, essentially. So, does he get... If he loses but loses well, is that reflected in it at all?
I'm not sure. It's all very murky and undefined. You have to expect, if he puts in a great show, and they'll do some, I don't know, like qualitative statistics about that. Yeah. And what I would love to see resulting from this match is if he gets, and the whole idea is to get Darby Allin over but not put him over. What I would love to see is at Full Gear, if his stock is considered high after that, Darby Allin versus Pac. At Full Gear. I think that would be great.
High-level match.
Yes.
Another title match we have is the AEW Women's Championship. Riho defending against the woman. A lot of people picked in the early stages of AEW to be the first women's champion. Riho has to retain again here, doesn't she?
Yes, absolutely. You don't want to burst that balloon, because already the fans have seemed to have forged like a really big-time emotional connection with this character. I loved her performance. I thought it was great. I think too many people have given credit to the crowd's willingness to get the match over and not so much her performance. I thought she was magnificent in that match. And yeah, I think she definitely has to go over here.
See, it's funny because I would have argued it the other way. I would have said I was really disappointed at how not into it to begin with the crowd were. And Riho just being that good and taking those spots and making you those helpless spots where she's just like, Nia, I'm going to keep doing that no matter what. Nyla Rose continue destroying, and you think, like, you just want to see her get out of it. But, like, her legs, there was a point when she went to lift and her legs were, like, just like jelly.
Yeah.
And you think, how is she getting back from this?
And there was the bit when she tried to jump on Nyla Rose's back, and it looked like it was so ineffective. Yeah. Like, she had no strength whatsoever. Nope. So to graduate from that to the way she was laying in the forearms at the end, I thought it was a great performance.
And that's the thing, you heard it in the crowd, I thought, because they suddenly went from being like, to being like, oh, now we'll have to pay attention to this.
Yes.
Match. They forced that out of them, and it was arguably the best match of the night, because it was just, even actually on any of the shows, to be honest, and NXT included. And I just think, what I'm interested to see, everyone's gone on about Britt Baker and sort of thought maybe she would be the one that was going to be. I've personally yet to see a really good performance from her, and I'd like to see something from her. I'm assuming we're going to maybe get the match where two faces essentially going at it, and then Riho gets the win, a bit of respect. But I'd like to see the point where Britt Baker has put on a match good enough to make me think, actually, she might be also right up there with...
Yeah, Britt Baker needs to do something special, I think, tonight. Let's move on and talk about the tag team tournament matches. SCU versus Best Friends. How do you see this one going?
I don't know. I think SCU are going over because I think they've built up a better win-loss record. Doesn't matter in the context of the tournament, but I just think they've got a real connection with the crowd. I think they're really credible, where the Best Friends are more of a mid-card banter act who could eventually go on kind of a more, I don't know, like a like a sentimental run at the titles at some point about a year down the line. I think you need SCU to go over here to legitimise the division and the tournament itself. But I think it'll be a really good match, but it's the other one I'm really most looking forward to.
Yeah, today is not a good day to be Jungle Boy in my eyes. Jurassic Express taking on Lucha Bros. What do you think of that?
That is just, like, at the start of this, if you had to pick, obviously we knew the tag teams they were going to have in this division. You were already dreaming up who was going to go against who. That has got to be one that was right up the top of the list for me. I think, just to quickly touch on the other match as well, I think SCU is a smart move because I don't want to see them. I know they're not allowed to put all the guys over, like you've seen Cody in the Bucks taken and Omega. It'd be nice to see some of them actually start to go over, like SCU, arguably the guys who probably can in that scenario. In terms of this other match, though, literally anything that's got Luchasaurus in at the moment, for me, and Jungle Boy, no problem. And there's going to be some nuts, like absolutely beyond ridiculous spots in this. You know it's going to be that way. These two, Jurassic Express, have got, to be fair, Lucha Bros as well, but most recently, what have impressed me the most is Jurassic Express's tag team moves. Like, the sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? The elaborate nature of them all, of just like, I don't even know how to do some of them because I've never seen them before. They've like.
I love how symbiotic it is.
Yeah.
Like,
it's so
Luchasaurus is like such a lovely, wholesome presence that he has to like literally help his buddies to like try and get them, and he's very magnanimous with it. I just love the idea of like there's such a tight bond that Jungle Boy is going to get his neck hurt very badly in this match because the Lucha Bros are very good at doing that. Yeah. Just the thought of him just getting killed for 5 minutes and then finally
you're waiting for that,
willing the crowd behind him, getting that hot tag, Luchasaurus confronting that dickhead bully Pentagon, whatever he goes by now. That'll be a great moment. Fantastic.
Just those educated feet of Luchasaurus. He's going to get in there. He's going to be doing stuff. Every single match of his, I was worried it might have just been a flash in the pan thing at that at the Casino Battle Royal. Yes. I was like, oh, it was great. He got his spots down. But every week I feel like he's getting better. And the thing that has always bothered me a little bit is his stuff essentially off the ball, if you like. And I feel like he's improving that as well a little bit as the weeks go on. This is just going to be nuts, isn't it? And I wouldn't even... I'm assuming Lucha Bros maybe, but it's going to be a hard one to call.
Yeah, I'd sense Lucha Bros and SCU going through. Was it you I saw tweeting about Scorpio Sky recently?
Yes, Scorpio Sky. I absolutely love Scorpio Sky. He's very tellingly not been picked, or he's removed himself from contention from the tournament. He was profiled in that excellent corporate video, for lack of a better word, that Brandy Rhodes did. So I suspect he's going on a singles push, and I'm massively here for it. I don't think he's got a single flaw in his game.
No, he's absolutely fantastic. His promo game is outrageous.
Promo game's funny. He's hilarious.
Yeah, really
he's a great worker. He's in great shape.
Fantastic Barack Obama impression.
Yes, it's phenomenal. It's completely on the button. And the thing is, he's so solid and dependable, but he just shows no signs of wear and tear, despite how long he's been in the game.
Could we see it possibly, I guess, in that promo Jericho did, wasn't it? Straight after the match, walking on the back.
Yes.
He gives it the whole, you're never going to see this title. I mean, that's a perfect throwaway line, but you can make something like that, surely.
Easily.
Like, if they're going to give him a push, then that'd be the perfect way to do it for me.
Final match, last one to consider. It'll be all right. Kenny Omega, Hangman Page, Pac, and John Moxley. I mean, just chuck whoever's not in these tournaments, title matches, whatever, into a match. Inexplicable.
I mean, my only worry about this, and it's such a, it's going to be a 99 out of 100 instead of 100 out of 100 show, because I do worry that at least 3 of those matches are going to have to go some distance, which means we might not get another promo, which is where they have the complete advantage over NXT, in my opinion. But how could I possibly complain? I mean, it's going to be absolutely ridiculous. You'd expect it to build to the Moxley-Omega showdown because they want to wait to build the anticipation. But ultimately, it would be awesome as well if Moxley went, no. I want to chin him. Yeah. Like, I want to kill him. I've been doing this all along. So whatever way it goes, there's so much storyline potential to do something great with this, and completely ridiculously violent too.
It seems straightforward here. Pac and Moxley are on a bit of a tear. Omega's obviously on this infamous losing streak. Page, is up and down. So it would seem to suggest that on paper, Pac and Moxley go over here. Is it that simple?
I guess on paper it might be. I think it would be weird to give away Omega's losing streak in this tag match. It feels like that could get more legs out of that. And strangely, we've got 3 tag matches here back to back. And normally you'd be like, well, it's not very much variation that. But I don't think anybody is going to look at these and complain, because you're going to get 3 completely different kinds of matches. And that's what they're good at offering, I think, also in times when NXT maybe doesn't do that so much. You have one of each type of match rather than offering this variety. But, I mean, this match is going to be great. Jurassic Express. What the hell is this match going to be? Because that's 4 of arguably the best talents going. Full
I know.
stop.
The
Like,
fact that it's
full
in
stop.
Philly as well,
Yeah.
they'll clearly lean into the hardcore history of the city
Yeah.
and do loads of mad, violent stuff. In terms of who wins, yeah, I do think it is a Stark. I do worry about Hangman Page. He's increasingly becoming a geek. However, if you look at all the stuff that they've planted on being the elite, it seems quite obvious that they're foreshadowing a heel turn. So if he takes the defeat, it'll make sense to strengthen the guys who are going to get profiled more in the short-term future, and it builds his long-term storyline, I think.
Plus, I can easily see them booking, and this isn't not to steal from WWE's playbook too much here, but some shenanigans in here with Pac, because he's been utilising it very, very well recently.
Shenanigans just aren't their thing. Whenever they've done a post-match angle, that match has always ended clean. I think you'll get a clean, decisive, this is who is in the tier.
Yeah.
Here's who's higher in the tier. They could possibly do a post-match angle, even though I'd love to see a post-match John Moxley interview, because, God damn it, I need to see a Moxley promo. Like, I really do. He's just so great at it. But yeah, I think it'll be clean, whatever happens.
I think it needs to be, especially after the sort of weird direction that last 6-man tag match went into. Obviously, the great stuff with Moxley Omega, but realistically, you're like, well, I mean, that's a weird way to go.
It was like two wrongs making a great right, wasn't it?
It turned out we got something fantastic out of it, even if. This is the thing, though, I guess, because you're going to get that with AEW. You're going to get a bit of leeway because it's brand new. So you can, if that was WWE, we will be going mad because they've done it a million times before.
The worst payoff ever on being the elite for that, by the way. Did you see it?
Oh, no.
On Mondays being the elite, Kenny Omega went to the referee and goes, "What's your problem?" And goes, "Well, everyone just tells me I need to loosen up. You can't have a main event ending a DQ." It's like the only good thing is that Kenny Omega dropped an F-bomb. I was like, oh, that was quite funny.
Oh, okay.
So that's literally the only explanation I've given.
Moving on.
Let's transition over quickly to NXT then. How much are you looking forward to Tommaso Ciampa's in-ring return?
Always looking forward to Tommaso Ciampa on my screen. I mean, obviously, it's been a particularly tough time for him recently. The match, obviously, I didn't think they were going to chuck him in anywhere near at the top end with somebody, but this is probably a good night if you're Angel Garza, I guess, because you're getting showcased against arguably a guy who's going to be, assuming he's fully fit, pushed right back to the top of the card. It's probably a bit of a freshness that they needed in terms of we've seen a lot of the guys who have been having to carry this while we've had various absences, or we've not seen enough for me of the guys. Yes, we know Undisputed Era are established at the top now. That's, for me, where it should be. Those titles should be on those guys. That's probably the selling point. But we want to see potential and actual threats to come for that. And I guess Tommaso Ciampa is a very good place to start with his return.
Would you open the show with this?
Yes, I would. Actually, no, I wouldn't, I really wouldn't, because I think a lot of the problem is that the show openings so far have been so explosive and so watch us, not them, that they've been pumping out like the biggest, most exciting attraction. The crowd peaks and the rest of the show feels like just nowhere near as essential as the start. I would screen some of the footage from his recovery and build that throughout the night in a series of video packages where the first bit of footage is where he's just gone into surgery and he looks absolutely knackered, and the next bits of video chart and map his recovery, which at the same time will build the anticipation for his return. I would have this main event.
Same.
Build him as a main event star, which realistically they haven't really done so far because of the whole subverted, we need eyes on this right now.
Yeah.
Like, present him as a main event star, and he might be received as one by the section of the audience that's in two minds over which show to watch.
We got Pete Dunne versus Damian Priest as well. Pete Dunne has been flying in NXT, but they could utilise him here to really give Damian Priest a bit of a push as well.
That's the extent of my sort of anticipation with this match. I've said this before, I will not bore people too relentlessly with it, but it's a simple post-match attack, setting up a match under the premise of, I need to prove myself. I just find it tedious. I find it boring, solid, functional, not particularly compelling.
By the numbers.
Yeah, very much by the numbers. So realistically, it's going to be a really good match. They invariably are. But yeah, I can't get too excited about this, which again, I think is a sentiment shared by the core wrestling fandom that's making up these two audiences. So yeah, it's one of those matches where I'm going to have to watch it because I'm going to do a podcast on it tomorrow, but it's probably going to be the last thing I watch.
Yeah, it strikes me that it's the first time I've thought I'll probably just skim NXT. Obviously, we'll avoid all spoilers and trying to watch Tommaso Ciampa's in-ring return. I'm not bothered if Dunne versus Priest is spoiled for me. But one match I cannot wait for, Adam Nicholas, is Keith Lee versus Dominic Dijakovic, I'm going to go with this time.
Close.
The rubber match between those two. This,
Yeah.
I don't know what there's left for these two to do because they tear their house
It's a
down
rubber
every
match.
time.
It's a rubber match. So it's just this is it. Basically, this is all good and well, and I've been enjoying these matches. I'm sure other people have been enjoying them. Even people getting upset about them because they've been doing typically PWG sort of stuff, doing mad finishes and using all sorts of moves that people are getting really upset about, like the
Flip and destroyer.
Destroyer off the turnbuckle onto the deck. My worry, if I'm these two, is that I feel like they were signed to just do this.
Yes.
These two were only signed for this match, right? And literally, there's zero other thought process has gone into it, other than they've had this match at PWG, and it was great. They've had a big series. It was great, wonderful. So they picked that up, and they're doing it again in NXT, which is fine. That's nothing the matter with that. I just don't know what leads to this, because Keith Lee's been sat on the sidelines waiting for Dominik Dijakovic, there you go, to come back and just return for that match. That's it. So this is going to be great, I'm sure. But if I'm them two guys tonight, I am worried, because after that, assuming that's it, if that's really what they're going to draw the line, I don't know where they're going to go, because there's been no hint at all about who else might be the next guys.
No, I mean, I don't know a great deal about Dijakovic,
There you
to
go.
be honest, outside of what you've mentioned there. Keith Lee, we were lucky enough to have in WCPW. Just cross that off on the old
Bing!
bingo, right? But
Da-da-da.
he fought a Ricochet in the US leg of the World Cup, and it is one of the most memorable matches purely because I can picture him almost throwing Ricochet out of Manchester, I do believe. So there is something there for him, but it's difficult to find a spot for him. Could you see him possibly transitioning to a feud with Imperium, possibly?
I've got absolutely no idea. And again, that's the problem. This match seems to serve the sole purpose of having a great match, because we know these guys have great matches. And again,
Great gift potential.
yes, absolutely. And it speaks to me the lack of imagination that is coursing through NXT right now. It is essentially PWG from 3 years ago with far superior production values and even more irritating commentary. That's what it is for me right now. I would like to see them say, you know what? Have the winner of this match be first in line for whomever wins the North American title match next week. Like some kind of sense of importance, some kind of stakes, some kind of purpose for this match to happen. But again, don't get it twisted, right? Don't get it twisted. When we're pedantically discussing these matches, it's like, well, you know, it's going to be like 4.5 stars at a minimum, but we're in a very, very, very good time. We're just analysing it. We want to make things, well, no one's going to listen, but we just want to make things that little bit better, that little bit more purposeful. This match is going to be absolutely incredible if given the allotted time. They've clearly, in my opinion, been holding something back, which is ridiculous because the matches they've had in NXT have been quite incredible. This could potentially be good enough to blow anything away on that AEW card. Like, realistically, it could. So,
And obviously, they've got this in the back of their head. We've already saw Dijakovic was messaging Kenny Omega over Twitter after his promo, basically saying they were just developmental. So they want to make a statement. They want to be the thing that's talked about at the end of the night. The problem is, and I think Sid just hit the nail on the head here, is that NXT has got a bunch of components that are all there for like a really good... Like last week, think of all the stuff that AEW set up. So many different
10
bits.
matches in
So
one main
many different
event.
bits, right? But we're getting these great little short-term impacts, which is fine. Like I think my bar for watching a wrestling show on a weekly basis isn't quite as high as some other people's.
you
Right?
dick.
Some other people. No, but it isn't though, because it's just
Sound a
not.
pedantic nerd.
No, because you're used to like New Japan, you're used
Yeah,
to better
yeah.
wrestling, and I don't need it to be a home run every week. I just need it to tell a little bit more of the story. But that's the point. Now we're getting to a point where the story perhaps isn't being told at all, and that's becoming an issue because you've got these 4 guys who are your top guys, but then what else? Like, we're seeing a little bit here and there between the matches that lead from week to week, but we're not seeing that long-term thing. Now, I'm hoping maybe with the return of Tommaso Ciampa, that could be the fuse. But you're waiting for two guys or 2 gals to really ignite something and say, these guys have a huge reason for wrestling against each other, and it's going to become this thing. At the moment, we're drastically missing that. And these guys, especially Keith Lee and Dijakovic, man, are top of that list for me.
Regardless, Wednesday nights are saving wrestling for me. 8 incredibly exciting matches to look forward to tonight at the very least. And, of course, the return of Tegan Knox to NXT. Great news that. Make sure you join us for our Wednesday Night War review podcast, which you can get by searching for WhatCulture Wrestling, on either iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast from. But for now, this has been the Wednesday Night War preview. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And you can let us know your thoughts on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE. Watch there. You can follow all three of us. You can follow Michael Sidgwick at...
To quote Mauro Ronaldo, on Fuego on Twitter at the minute, at Sidgwick.
You can follow Adam Nicholas at...
It really is. It's Adam Nicholas. You can find me at a moderate temperature, depending on what your tastes are.
You can follow me being just broken on Twitter at Adam Wilbourn. Follow us all, as I said, at WhatCultureWWE. This has been the Wednesday Night War preview podcast. My thanks to Michael and to Adam. Thank you for watching, and we will see you soon.